Welcome, my friend. The storm rages outside, but here, in the quiet of this story, I invite you to find peace. Let the sound of the rain and the distant thunder guide you as you drift into a place of calm. This story is my gift to you, a gentle companion for a night of restful sleep. Relax, let go of the day, and let the story carry you into dreams. It was one of those nights when the rain had no intention of stopping. I was hauling a load through a stretch of highway I knew like the back of my hand. Empty roads, nothing but trees on either side, and the occasional flash of lightning illuminating the desolate landscape. The air was thick with the smell of wet asphalt, and every now and then the sound of thunder rumbled like a warning. The truck's engine hummed steadily, but my mind was somewhere else, just wishing for the shift to end. It was around 2 a.m. when the radio crackled to life. You'd think I'd have gotten used to the static by now, but it always felt like someone was trying to speak through the white noise. That night it was different. "Careful, buddy," the voice on the radio said. It was slow, almost like it was coming from far away. "You're not alone on this road." I chuckled to myself. Maybe it was the exhaustion or the fact that my coffee had worn off hours ago, but I figured it was just some weird radio glitch. So I pressed down on the accelerator, telling myself to just keep driving, keep my eyes on the road. That's when I saw it. A figure tall cloaked, standing in the middle of the road. It was the kind of thing you'd expect to see in a movie, but in real life it was different. It was real, and it was standing right in front of me. I slammed my foot on the brakes, the truck screeching to a halt just a few feet away. The rain was coming down harder now, pounding the windshield as if the sky was furious. Thunder cracked, followed by the kind of silence you only get when something unnatural is close. The figure didn't move, just stood there, perfectly still. I honked the horn, thinking maybe it was just some poor soul who wandered off the side of the road. Maybe a hitchhiker or someone in distress. But when the figure turned slowly to face me, my stomach dropped. Its face was pale, too pale, the kind of white that makes your blood run cold. And its eyes, those eyes were empty, just dark, hollow pits, like someone had carved out the light from its soul. "Hey," I yelled, rolling down my window despite the rain. "You need help." It didn't answer, just kept staring, unblinking. I shifted the truck into reverse, ready to turn around and get out of there. But the figure didn't move, until it did. One step, two steps, it walked toward me, slow, deliberate. The wind howled, and another lightning strike lit up the sky, casting the figure's shadow across the cab of my truck. "All right, this is a joke, right?" I muttered to myself, trying to keep my nerves in check. "Somebody's filming a TikTok. I'm gonna be famous, right? Yeah, just waiting for the punchline." I reached for the gear shift, ready to peel out. But then I realized something that made my blood run colder than the rain. The truck was stuck. The wheels weren't moving. It was like something or someone was holding me in place. I glanced out the window again. The figure had vanished. But there was no way I was going to get out of the truck now. No way. So I waited. And the storm, it didn't let up. Thunder rumbled overhead, and rain continued to pour down, as if the night was waiting for something or someone. I sat there, gripping the steering wheel so tight that my knuckles were turning white. The rain came down in sheets, and thunder rumbled overhead, like an ominous warning. The figure, if I even believed I saw it, was gone. But the air was still thick with something I couldn't quite place. It was as if the night itself had turned unnatural. I tried starting the truck again, pressing my foot down on the accelerator. But the engine sputtered, the headlights flickered, and I swear I could feel the truck shudder, like it was trying to get away from something. But no matter what I did, I couldn't get it moving. The radio crackled again. "Still here. Thought you'd leave after you saw me, but you're stuck, just like the others. You can't run." I froze. The voice, it wasn't the radio glitch anymore. It sounded alive. "Who's there?" I called out, but my voice came out quieter than I wanted. The storm outside seemed to be drowning everything out. I couldn't tell if I was being brave, or just too tired to be scared anymore. Suddenly, a loud bang on the side of my truck made me jump. I looked out the window. half expecting to see the figure standing there, staring at me again. But all I saw was a shadow, a tall, narrow shadow, that shifted unnaturally, with the flickering of the rain. Another bang, and then nothing. No figure, no noise, just the relentless pounding of the rain, and the occasional crash of thunder in the distance. But the temperature inside the truck, it dropped, fast. It was as if winter itself had somehow found its way into the cabin, and I could see my breath, even though the heat was still running. Not funny anymore, I muttered, trying to laugh it off. The longer I sat there, the more I felt my nerves getting the best of me. I just needed to get out of there. But the truck refused to start. I kept turning the key, praying for the engine to catch, but it wouldn't. And then bang. The truck jolted. The lights flickered, and the radio exploded with static again, followed by that same voice now closer than before. You should have turned back. Now you'll never leave. A sense of dread washed over me. My hands were shaking, and I could barely breathe. I had no idea what was going on. But one thing was clear. Something was messing with me, and it wasn't going to let me go. As if on cue, the thunder cracked so loud it made the truck rattle, and the shadow outside, whatever it was, moved again. This time, I could hear it tapping, like nails dragging along the side of the truck. I had no idea what it was, but one thing was for sure. I wasn't alone out there. The storm raged on. The rain fell harder. The voice came again, but this time it was laughing. I wanted to scream. Hell, I wanted to break down and cry, but I didn't. I couldn't. Whatever was happening, whatever was out there, I had to face it. I wasn't about to let it get the best of me. I tried again to start the truck. My fingers slicked with sweat as I twisted. The engine sputtered, coughed, and then finally roared loud. For a moment, I thought I was free, but that hope was short-lived. The truck lurched forward, slowly, almost like it was fighting against me. The tires skidded on the slick road, and I barely managed to keep it steady, my heart pounding in my chest. But as I looked in the rear-view mirror, I saw something that made my stomach churn. There it was, the figure. It was standing right in the middle of the road, staring at me. Its eyes, those dark hollow pits, were now glowing faintly, like two burning embers. Its shape twisted unnaturally in the storm's light, as if it were bending the very air around it. I slammed on the brakes, and the truck screeched to a halt, throwing me forward into the seatbelt. The rain poured down harder now, as if the heavens themselves were trying to drown me. Go ahead, try to run, the voice crooned, now sounding like it was right beside me. But you'll never get far, not from me. I looked out the window, trying to see if I could catch a glimpse of it, but it was gone. In its place, the rain had picked up, and the wind howled with a force that nearly pushed the truck off the road. What the hell was going on? I hit the gas again, speeding down the road, trying to put as much distance between me and that thing as I could. The truck's engine roared, but so did something else. Behind me, the sound of footsteps, slow dragging footsteps, followed. They weren't human. The rhythm of the steps was off, like someone or something was dragging a heavy weight. The sound grew louder, with each passing second. My hands were clammy, gripping the steering wheel, but I dared not look back. I had to keep going. I had to outrun whatever was chasing me. Bang! The sound came from above. I glanced in the rear-view mirror, and to my horror, I saw something that shouldn't be possible. The sky itself was breaking, like the clouds were ripping apart, revealing something dark and twisted behind me. A massive shadow, twice the size of the truck, was hanging above me, blocking out what little light the storm provided. The rain poured down so thickly now that it was hard to see past the windshield. The wipers barely kept up with the no-light, and I felt my pulse racing. Whatever was out there, it was gaining on me, and I wasn't sure how much longer I could keep this up. But then, in the distance, a flicker of light, a sign, a town. I could make it. I could get to safety. But just as the thought crossed my mind, I heard a voice, soft at first, but growing louder, until it was a thunderous roar that made the whole truck shake. You can't escape, driver. You never could. I slammed my foot on the accelerator, but the truck didn't respond. It was like it was being held back by invisible chains. And then I saw it. The figure had caught up to me, standing in the middle of the road again. But this time, It wasn't alone. There were more. Dozens, maybe hundreds, of those shadowy figures, walking slowly, their glowing eyes locked on me. The rain was relentless, the thunder deafening, and I realized, with a sinking feeling in my stomach, that there was no escaping. Not this time. The truck was shaking violently now, as though the very ground beneath it was coming apart. I tried to steer, but it was as if someone, was pulling the wheel in the other direction. The figures in the distance were drawing closer, their hollow eyes glowing brighter with each step. The air itself felt heavy, thick with an unnatural presence that seemed to press down on me from all sides. I glanced at the rear view mirror, and for the first time I saw them, all of them. A horde of these dark figures, slowly, relentlessly, marching toward me. I could feel their gaze, even though I couldn't see their faces, just that dark emptiness that seemed to devour the very light around me. The voice on the radio crackled again, low and menacing. You thought you could leave, but this road was made for you, and you'll stay, forever. I wanted to scream, I wanted to fight back, but it was like my body had frozen. My foot slammed down on the accelerator, but the truck barely moved. It was stuck right there in the middle of the road, with no way out. I looked to the side, the trees around me swaying violently, their limbs twisted and contorted in unnatural ways, as if the storm itself was warping everything in its path. The wind howled louder, and the rain lashed against the truck like 1,000 needles. The figures were closing in fast now, their movements synchronized. It was like they were waiting for something. And then I realized, they weren't after the truck. They weren't after me. They were after the road. The road that had once been my lifeline. The road that now felt like a cage, a trap. Please, I whispered, my voice barely audible over the storm. What do you want? One of the figures stepped closer, the others following suit. It was taller than the rest, towering over the truck. I could feel its presence before it even spoke. You don't belong here anymore, it said, its voice like the wind, harsh and cold. This road is ours now. The truck began to shake again, harder this time, as if the very earth beneath it was cracking open. The truck's engine sputtered, and I watched, helpless, as the lights began to flicker, one by one, the temperature fell, my breath visible in the air, as the shadowy figure part of the road now. You'll never leave, it said. Suddenly, the truck lurched forward, snapping me out of my stupor. I looked ahead. The road was gone. The pavement had cracked and split, revealing a black void beneath it, swirling like a storm of shadows. The ground beneath the tires seemed to disappear, and I felt the truck tilting, slowly tipping toward the abyss. I slammed my foot on the brakes again, but the truck wasn't stopping. It was like it was being sucked into the void. And then, in a split second before the truck plunged into the darkness, I heard the voice again. You thought you were driving away, but you were always driving toward it. The abyss swallowed me whole. The world around me twisted into a blur. The truck spun out of control, hurtling toward the black void, the headlights flashing one last time, before everything went dark. I braced myself, expecting the crash to be the end. The truck felt like it was falling, plunging like I was tumbling through space itself, lost in the storm that had consumed me. But when I opened my eyes, there was no crash, no impact, nothing but endless darkness, and the relentless sound of rain pouring down. I was somewhere else. The truck had stopped, its engine silent, the storm now eerily still. The air around me felt different. I wasn't sure what was real anymore. Was I dreaming? Was I dead? I glanced around, my breath catching in my throat. There were no trees, no road, no figures, no truck, just an empty, endless plain of wet, black asphalt, stretching out in all directions. And then in the distance, I saw it, a flicker of light. It was far away, but it was there, a distant glow, faint but unmistakable. I couldn't help myself. I had to move toward it. I had to get out of this place. As I walked, my boots splashing in the puddles, I noticed something strange. There were no shadows. The light from the distant glow seemed to come from nowhere. And yet there it was, casting an unnatural, almost supernatural radiance over the ground. I had no idea how long I'd been walking, but it felt like hours, or maybe years. Time didn't make sense here. I kept moving toward the light, my steps growing quicker, desperate to reach it, to escape this endless void. The farther I walked, the louder the rain became, as if the storm itself was closing in on me again. And then I heard it. That voice. You can't run anymore. I stopped dead in my tracks, my heart racing in my chest. The voice was so clear now, as if it was right behind me, whispering in my ear. It sent a chill down my spine. Your road has no end. You've already arrived. The voice, it was different this time. Softer, calm, but no less terrifying. I turned around, and there it was. That same figure, standing behind me. But this time, there were no glowing eyes, no dark shadow. It was human. Just a man, standing there in the rain, with a calm, almost sympathetic expression on his face. Who are you? I asked, my voice trembling. He stepped closer, his voice gentle but firm. I am the road. And you. Before he could finish, the world around me shifted again. The asphalt beneath my feet cracked, the rain turning to mud, the sky darkening once more. The figure was gone. The storm had returned, fiercer than before, drowning out my thoughts with its deafening roar. You can never leave. You will always return to the road. The last thing I saw before the darkness swallowed me whole was that distant light, flickering once, and then vanishing, just like the road I once knew. I woke up hours later, or was it days? My eyes blinked open to see the headlights of my truck illuminating the rain-soaked highway once again. I didn't know how I got here. I didn't know if it had been a dream, a nightmare, or something else entirely. But one thing was for sure. I was still on the road. The rain was falling again. The thunder rumbled overhead, and when I looked in the rearview mirror, I swore I saw something moving in the distance. And that was it. The radio cracked with light. Careful, buddy. You're not alone on this road. I gripped the wheel, my heart pounding. I wasn't going to make the same mistake. This time I was going to get off this road. I had to. But as the truck roared to life, and I pressed the gas pedal, I realized one thing. The road wasn't done with me yet.